Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, boy. I bet some of you feel like I do today. That news breaking late last night. I already got myself in bed hoping for a good night's sleep, and whoa, there was no sleep to be had. I'm just, that is by way of informing you if I seem a little slow today. Anyway, good morning. It is May 3rd, 2022. An interesting year in the history of the United States of America. And that, of course, reminds us of the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. I'm sorry, my dog is here, and you might hear him occasionally. He's being picked up, but they're stuck in traffic. Also, while I'm doing all this, before I get to the subject at hand, I also want to apologize for not being there yesterday, not being here yesterday. We had every intention of being here, but the tech gods were playing with us, and it was a problem apparently not just happening with us. It was something happening with Zoom, which we employ to get the show out there. And so I don't pretend to understand any of these technical things, but by virtue of the fact that we are a live podcast that takes phone calls, we end up having to marry a number of apps and sources and platforms to do that. Most podcasts don't. First of all, are not live, and they also don't take calls. And if we didn't do either of those, this show would be, there constantly. So this is part of the price we pay, and also for not having, obviously, the kind of resources available to us to have, a real studio. So that's by way of apology, and we hope that that will not repeat itself anytime soon. Look, the news that broke last night, this extraordinary, unprecedented, as so many things are these days, when it comes to the Republicans, and I have little doubt that the leak came from Republicans. Don't ask. Well, we'll get into that, and the leak is not important. The reality is that this is no surprise. The only thing that was unknown was whether or not the court would totally strike down Roe, which apparently it is intending to do, or just mutilate it. I am still connected to Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania, and I know that its leadership has been preparing for months and months now for the moment when this actually happens. So, and their understanding is, as I said, it will either be fully overturned or maimed, tarred and feathered, and left for dead. So in that regard, this is no surprise. I guess it's still that the fact that it wasn't a surprise did not lessen the gut punch that I felt oh, wait a minute. And I know this is not right. I'm speaking of this, such a huge, huge historical event in this country. And it is. I mean, when that was a draft, but it left little hope that the majority of the court intends to literally overturn Roe v. Wade. So did I just say gut punch? I did. And it made me think of something that also happened yesterday that I just have to tell you about before I forget. I'm sorry. And it's sort of it's a laugh. For you, it's a laugh. For me, not so much. As you know, the aforementioned dog who I live with is a playful sort who loves nothing more than playing tug. And he has millions of toys that we do that with. Any toy that he has that is like stuffed with something, he immediately eviscerates so that it becomes a flattened piece of cloth. And it was one of those flattened pieces of cloth that he engaged me with yesterday afternoon. It's called, I'm looking at it now, it's called Tuffy, because it's one of those toys that supposedly a dog is not able to destroy. Ha! I'm looking at about 1/3 of it that remains. And when it was first presented to him, was a banana. So what is left is what looks like a banana, and there's one little part of a peel that's still there. He came to me proffering it with that look on his face, which he, by the way, is doing right now with another toy. Hey, want to play tug? And I usually have the same reaction to that, which is whether I voice it or not, a sigh. Because the answer invariably is no, I don't want to play tug. But the expectancy, those brown eyes looking at you, that, come on, let's play, is hard to resist. So I grabbed hold of the peel and we commenced the game. He's strong as hell. And I do consider this part of my my exercise because it's good for my biceps. I mean, and my upper body, because I really, really have to use my muscles. And that's what I was doing. I had a big grasp on this part of my part of the peel I had. He had his grasp, and I swear I'm not quite sure what happened. Something like it has happened before, but never with this end result. All of a sudden, the force that was being expended from his strong pulling in one direction and my resistance in the other, somehow the peel gave way. I don't even know if I think he had it. But my hand, my fist, actually, because my head was grabbing it and my hand was a fist. My fist, actually, once the peel disappeared from my hand, well, I don't know the physics of it. What is that? Is that Archimedes' principle? I don't know what the physics of it is. Well, what happened is my fist all of a sudden bereft of the force that was keeping it in relative place came ricocheting. I mean, just came bang straight back at me and punched me smack on the bridge of my nose. I, with my fist, smashed myself in the nose. And I have to tell you, in all my years, and there are plenty of them, I have never been hit with a fist my nose. Oh my God. I did see stars. It was a good thing I was sitting down because I think I might have fallen. The velocity with which I hit myself, I think, was pretty astonishing. And the force, good God, the pain. I was literally like moaning, and I was sure that I was bleeding. I was sure, and I kept touching, looking for blood. There was no blood, but that I'm sure, I'm still not unsure. Right word. I still don't know if I broke my nose. It is so sore. I can't even, I don't know. I also, thank God, did not get a black eye, which I thought I might get because, who would believe if you're, a woman walking around with a black eye is always assumed to be abused. And, saying, well, I walked into a door. Come on. And my excuse would be that I punched myself. That wouldn't have gone over. So I just want to say that happened last night. That was the first time in my life I have experienced that particular kind of pain and astonishment. Unexpected. I sucker punched myself. And man, am I sore. I ended up very soon with sort of this blinding headache. But now all I have is a really, really, really sore left. That bone on the top of your nose, that bone. I can't even touch it. All right, Ruth wants to know where's Susan. I know it's Tuesday, but because we had such technical difficulties yesterday, I suggested, and we weren't sure if we were going to get on today, I told Susan, hey, do you mind? I don't want you just hanging there. Susan will come on tomorrow. Okay? That's all. That's it. Sorry, I forgot it was Tuesday as well, because it feels like Monday to me, because it's the first show of the week for me. All right. I am avoiding the subject, but I did have to tell you about my almost takedown of myself. Dear God. Okay. And, I thought that was a much lighter subject than what we got now. So the reason I said that and it was my first thought, wow, they kept saying unprecedented that a draft of an opinion would be leaked. I have no recollection of anything like that happening in my lifetime. And I pretty much pay attention. So here's what I'm thinking. It has to do with the Chief Justice. Because as the leak shows, that the three so-called liberal justices are, of course, not joining this opinion. But there are 5 that are. The 3 that the twice impeached grifter Putin pal put on the court with the help of Mitch McConnell, refusing to allow. When you think about on both ends how 2 of the last 3 justices got on, That is all you need to know about the current Republican Party. They don't play by the rules. They don't care what anybody says about their bold flouting of every institutional protection that we thought existed to keep something like the Supreme Court of the United States, an institution that people trusted. Mostly. I mean, stop and think about it. So two of the justices that, without whom Roe would not be being overturned, got on the court in a way that also was unprecedented. McConnell's refusal to allow the president, who at the time was Barack Obama, to nominate a justice during his tenure, saying, oh, no, it's an election year. We can't do that. The election was what, 10 months away? And then the other justice that's going to sign off on the death of Roe v. Wade, Amy, is Barrett. I'm blanking on her name. Let's say Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Whatever the hell that Stepford wife is. She got on in literally the last seconds of Trump's presidency. Because all of a sudden, if a Republican president is in office, you can put someone on the Supreme Court, according to Mitch McConnell, up until the swearing in. Neither of those two should be on the bench. So my understanding is, and the little that I've been able to read, is that this pull no punches, spare no precedent segment of the Republican Party, which is the majority of it, was very concerned. And maybe they heard about this concern from one of the justices, like Alito, that the Chief Justice was working mightily to pull one of the five back, not so they'd dissent, but so they would join him in not totally overturning it, and to have a more nuanced, less clearly political statement and opinion from the court. And why then would somebody leak the Alito draft, which said that these five were already on board? Well, they would leak it because now whoever Justice Roberts was maybe working on, now they would have to be extremely courageous, I guess, to pull away from the five and join perhaps the chief in trying to ameliorate the absolute viciousness and cruelty and stunning. If you've read some of it, I mean, it's long. I read some. This is why I didn't sleep last night, because I started reading it. Oh my God. I mean, oh my God. Just flat out says, and clearly what it also says, and I'm sorry, I'm babbling. There will be so much, there's so much being written right now, about from people who have the time to be more thoughtful than certainly I have, just talking off the top of my head. Will parse this so much better than I can, legal minds. But if you stop and think, when these Trump justices, when they were nominees, and in their appearances before the Senate Judiciary Committee, when asked about Roe, how I think every one of them, as I recall, flat out said, look, it's precedent. The Supreme Court does not, if something's been there in the law for 50 years, and in fact, it involves a right that can be enjoyed by more than half of the population, it is unthinkable that you would take it back. And they all pretty much said, well, Roe is settled law. Which is to say, I think they all perjured themselves. So, look, here's the reality, and we saw it coming, and so did all the Republican states that have been passing these laws. Abortion will now be unavailable in this country for people, for women, if they live in a Republican-controlled state, which is most of the states. Abortion will always be available to women of means living in any of those states because they have the ability to get up and go somewhere else without losing income, ability to have somebody to care for their children while they take care of their own health care. So I guess let us be clear about that. So it'll be mostly women of color and poor women. Just think about this. And girls, a lot of girls who might be victims of rape, because a lot of girls are victims of rape. Living in these states where it doesn't matter, you're raped, you're 11 years old, you're raped by your uncle, you bear that child. That child has more right to a life, that fetus, than you, a living, breathing child yourself. And that's what these laws totally state. I guess what blows my mind is if the polls are right, 70% of Americans believe in a woman's right to control her own body. Now, granted, I don't think most Americans think abortion should be able to. I think most, as usual, I think most Americans are probably somewhere in the middle, which is far from where these laws that are being passed are. And I do think they probably believe that there should be some restrictions, as Roe has said, on abortion. But this court has just thrown it. And we really don't know what's going to happen now. I mean, it wasn't just Roe; it was also that Casey case as well. Our former governor, Casey. And Alito in the draft just flat out says, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. And the legal thinking is exactly what we knew. He goes on to say that it is time that this issue be returned to people's elected representatives. In other words, this is not something the court should decide. This is something that legislatures should decide. And so it should go back to the states. Now, I have to tell you, I brought this up a while ago, that if that is what they're hanging this on, then what is to prevent legislatures from doing the same with the same reasoning? And what's to prevent this court from agreeing with that and saying that, you know, something like gay marriage, something like interracial marriage, something like access to contraception, all of these sexual things that they seem so creepily concerned with all the time. How is that different than Roe and abortion? It's all the same. It's about controlling people's sexual behavior. In their eyes, these creeps who thinks homosexuality is just about sex, who look at an interracial couple and think, oh my God, they're having sex. They don't look at those couples and say, oh, they're in love. No, they go right to sex. And we disapprove. And our God disapproves. So, I was alive when abortion was illegal, and I was of childbearing age when it was illegal. And I have told you that I saw a lot of friends have frightening illegal abortions. And it is mind-blowing. that we are going to be catapulted back 50 years. And all of the women, young women now, who will find themselves in the same place my 20-year-old self was in. My heart goes out to them, but here is a good lesson. Just because something gets won, it doesn't necessarily stay won. Battles have to be fought over and over and over again. And it's the young people now who are going to have to, because this is going to impact them more than us old farts. It is they who will now have to step up. Incredible. Here's how Republicans think. I just got this from Barbara. Getting pregnant by rape is actually an opportunity, according to Republican Ohio Representative Gene Schmidt, who went on to say that rape is difficult and may leave emotional scars. But those scars, even if they don't go away, there's an opportunity for that, young woman. Wow. Pregnancy from rape is an opportunity. Yeah. As you know, there's an effort in the Congress. And by the way, let's be clear, the Congress of the United States is pretty much an ineffectual body at this point, given the Senate and given the fact that the Democrats' so-called majority includes Joe Manchin and Sinema. We do not have it. Even Mitch McConnell, although he is no longer supposedly in control of the Senate, it still seems as if he is in control of the Senate. And because of the filibuster and all of this crazy stuff that prevents true democracy in this country, that prevents our voices and even our elected representatives who are our voices from exercising our voices in the Senate. So this idea that we should legislatively, on a federal level, the Women's Health Protection Act is called, it ain't going to happen unless you get rid of the filibuster. And that ain't going to happen because we don't have enough senators. And this is why, again, we get back to elections are important. And we get back to a lot of Democrats who won't vote for Democrats because they ain't left enough. The only possible good thing that can come out of this is that it will wake up a lot of the young people that don't like Joe Biden and don't like the Democrats, but really hate the Republicans. Well, they really hate the Democrats too. But will wake them up to the fact that One or the other is going to have power. And if you vote for Democrats, this would not be happening. And is that not preferable to allowing Republicans to have power? You know, again, I'm gonna let this go for now. We do know. I mean, another thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, that a lot of abortions now are done pharmaceutically. There are pills that can be dispensed, and generally they work well. And a lot of these laws that the Republicans are passing in various states criminalize those as well. But it would seem that at least, because a pill is an easier thing to smuggle across state lines and make available, rather than figuring out ways to take women and move them across state lines when maybe not to be at work means you can't pay the bills or there's no one there for your children, that those pills are going to be very, very helpful. But there's going to have to be networks established and brave people willing. I'm sure they'll figure out ways that you cannot put those in the U.S. mails, and it'll be contraband, and they'll train dogs to smell out those pills. All of this control what should be the most personal of choices. Incredible to me. Yeah, I want to. I want to get off this for a second. Nose is hurting. My head is hurting. My heart is hurting. I just want to say that we're so. Well, no, I want to tell you another story. Humans, I don't know. You know, we all live we live our own lives. We interact with other people, right? I was saying the other day, oh my God, the lilacs are in bloom. Smell the lilacs. And then I got an email from Josh who said, I noticed that you pronounce the word lilac differently. Is that a Green Bay accent? I thought, what? And he says lilac. But he agrees they smell good, whether they're lilacs or lilacs. And I am saying that life, and we got to hang on to this, that life offers us so many opportunities for joy and pleasure and gratefulness, especially in a time like spring, right? And I happened to see that there was some research that was done that said that those of us who are capable of appreciating the smell, taking the time to note it and appreciate the smell of a lilac or a lilac, are happier people. That it makes a difference in your mental health. Stopping and smelling the roses. And I just want to say that, again, we all need to protect ourselves from the the rage and fear and anger that is stoked endlessly by shows like this. Although I try not to be too terrible. But this is, that, and by our media. And I just want you to remember to, while engaging in that a bit, because you're a citizen and you're concerned about the direction of your country and doing what you can do, I don't lose sight of the beauty and of the people and of humanity and of goodness. And I want to tell you two stories, because all of this other stuff is making us all crazy. I saw my doctor yesterday. More on that in a second. Saw my doctor yesterday, and I talked about my increasing inability to sleep, and he said, "Well, is it depression or anxiety? Are you suffering from depression or?" And I said, "Who the hell in their right mind is not feeling anxious these days?" Who with any, what sentient being is not feeling anxious and depressed? And he had to agree. But that's when I remember that, sure, that makes some sense. But what also makes sense is to live in the moment when you're walking past a tree that is coming to life, and the birds that are busy, and the bees and all that. I mean, my God, there's so much joy there. So much wonder. So anyway, I'm walking my dog on Saturday. And I had not been feeling well. And I ended up literally feeling like I couldn't breathe. And I found myself sitting. I kept stopping and sitting on someone's, sitting on a fence, not obviously a pointy fence, but some kind of a wall, and trying to get my breath. And I thought, my God, am I having an asthma attack? It doesn't feel. And then sort of plodding on and just trying to get myself home. And as I rounded the bend, getting close to my home, I see my neighbor doing yard work. This is my neighbor who flies Trump signs. And makes clear his politics with yard signs and flags, and man, they ain't my politics. And I have felt, I have felt animus toward him. Even though every time I'd encountered him, he was very nice, sociable, engaged me, played with the dog. And I saw him, and he looked up and said, "Hi, Lynn, how you doing?" And I said, "Not good. Do you mind if I sit down?" And I just pretty much collapsed on his lawn. Well, this Trump lover, who some of you and me on occasion would think of as the enemy, this guy, wow, he came to my aid so wonderfully. I said, "I have asthma. It's probably just," he said, "I have an inhaler." And he ran into his house, and he came out, and he gave me his inhaler. And then he ran into his house and he got me water, which he put electrolytes in. And he said, you have to drink this. Maybe you got some dehydration going on. And he cared for me so, with such concern, person to person. And then when I got uncomfortable being this lady lying on his lawn, I said, look, my house is 2 houses away. I'm fine. I'm going to get up. I'm going. He said, no, you're not. You're just saying that because you're uncomfortable. You're embarrassed. You stay right here. You need to sit for another, I don't know. I'm going to go get you a chair. He goes and gets me a chair. He goes and gets himself a chair. He puts us both in it. And we proceeded to have the most wonderful conversation for about a half hour. His kid came over. We laughed. We talked about books. Turns out he reads. I said, I'm sure you don't read novels, because men generally don't. He said, oh, no, I do. And then it turns out he read some of the books I had read. And we were talking about various authors. And, you know, if to be reminded of all of what we have in common when the powers that be and those that want power do everything they can to pull us away from each other, to keep us from engaging as humans. I cannot tell you how grateful I was for him. And even after I got home, he showed up at my door later with more electrolyte packages. It makes me want to cry because I think of how we talk and I've thought about him, because he doesn't vote like I do. And we only get ourselves in a worse place when we demonize a man like this. Clearly a good father, I could tell. An interesting, educated man. And I have not a clue whether he knows I don't know if he knows who I am. I suspect he does. By the way, I talked to my doctor. I got to go in for a bunch of tests. It could be I'm going the way of my dad in that I might have to have a pacemaker. It looks like, God bless pacemakers. I got to tell you, I want one. I want one now. Now. I have a pulse that is so low and has been forever. So, my pulse is in the 40s when I'm excited. And so somebody like that, like me, and they've been watching this for years, but it looks like that's what had happened. And anyway, I'll keep you updated. Jeez. My dad had one of the first pacemakers in his 40s, and it was so big that it looked like somebody had stuck a large transistor radio under the skin of his chest. And it stuck out. You could see there was this big, it was his skin you saw, but in the shape of a large transistor radio. Well, they've gotten very small now. And then he had to have his batteries changed all the time. And oh my God. And it kept him alive well into his 80s. So I'm actually, if that's what's happening, I'm happy. It's fine. And my doctor said the batteries these days, amazing. I don't have to change them. And then I want to tell you about another thing that happened to me on Friday. I had the unbelievable experience of sitting in on a Zoom class called Performing History that is out of Duquesne University. And it brings together inmates, people who were formerly incarcerated, and cops, and then a few others who are just interested. But there on that Zoom, I mean, there were guys, there was a table, I don't know what prison I was looking at, but there were, looked like about 6 or 7 prisoners there. They were part of the class. They were on one screen. There were 2 cops on separate screens. There were some guys, I wasn't sure who they were. There was clearly another ex-con who was in Philly. And what they do is they write. Some of it's clearly poetry. Some of it is more prose. And they share what they've written, and then conversation ensues, and oh my. Oh my God. I don't even know, there's no way I can, it was amazing. One of the teachers has asked me to return next class and to take part. I didn't take part at all, and I don't know. I just feel like what. But wow! And again, this sense that we have of typing. There was the cop, there was the inmate, and they're talking to each other. The cop's talking about having gone to an opera at the August Wilson Center. It's a white cop. He went to an opera at the August Wilson Center called Blue, which is an opera about a black cop whose kid is killed by a white cop. And he talked about that and how powerful it was, and how many questions it brought forth, and how he wished that the guys that are stuck there behind bars could see it. And then one of the inmates was furious about something he had seen on WPXI News. And it turns out that one of the teachers there had it on tape and played it so we could all see it. And it was a story about some kind of a planned place on Observatory Hill that would cater to formerly incarcerated people. For whatever their needs, counseling, this, that, the other. I wasn't quite clear about it, but it was that. It was something that was going, to be in that neighborhood. And so what was the report? The report was they found one woman who was spewing all the usual. We don't know who these people are. They could be child molesters. That is really close to a school, and on and on. And the entire piece was letting this woman try to rile up anybody watching. There was nobody really on the other side to maybe prevent this place from being there. And the inmates were like, you know, laughing like, what do they think we are? My God, you know, we don't know, talking about the despair that even after you get out of this place, you can't get a chance. One of them said, she's trying to pull a preemptive Karen. And then this guy, who hadn't said anything yet, starts up with this just off-the-cuff, freestyle, brilliant rant. Oh, they're coming. They're coming for us. Up Observatory Hill. I can see them. I can see them through my telescope. Oh, I can see him through my microscope. I can see him through my horoscope. And on he went. And I was just, it was the most amazing. He says, oh my God, they're throwing things. They're throwing poetry. They're throwing opera out the windows. They're coming. They're getting close. It was brilliant. Another guy said, look, we're just living in white people's imagination called America. That was one powerful experience. There are good people in this world. Some of them are in jail. Some of them are flying Trump flags. Please, please, let's try. Let's try to not be played by the powers that be, that make money when we're at each other's throats, when we don't see each other as fellow human beings, when we're incapable of talking to each other, listening to each other. I just got this from Lisa Cunningham, who's the editor of Pittsburgh City Paper. Thank you, Lisa. She says there are protests popping up all over the country today because of this. And she says here in Pittsburgh, if you want to protest, what we now have been told is the impending end of a woman's right to control her own body in the United States of America, the land of the free. There will be a protest at 5 o'clock today at the City County building downtown. 5 o'clock downtown. I hope a whole mess of you show up. Men, women, old, young, black, white. If I can just get a little more information, it says it's an emergency rally. All right. Well, I don't know. That's what it is. If you want to be there, I'm sure there'll be plenty of them. And Lisa always also informs me in a PS that it's lilac. I beg to differ. It's lilac. All right, I'm out of here. I got to go down to Allegheny General Hospital and get one of those stupid monitors I have to wear for a few days to find out whether or not it's my electrical system in my heart, whether or not I'm in need of, I don't know. I guess a pacemaker is places like that. I want one, and I want one now. All right, stop by tomorrow, I hope, and Susan will be joining me.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.